Hello, this is Thumbs United. I'm streaming it's a late night stream. I was gonna try to start around 10 p.m. Eastern time, but it didn't work out that way. It's now 12 in the morning, 12:01. So I'm gonna continue editing the Sleeping Spring series. And this episode is taking us into downtown Flint. And hold on, I just have to send out the tweet. And the people have been alerted. Okay. So here we go, we're going to jump back in. What we're doing today is just everything that's in green is going to be animated. So I'm just going to go through and do the keyframes for that. And this is what I call the photations, which is the photographic animations. So it's really just animated, making an animated slideshow. But I kind of control where the user or the viewer looks. So I'm going to turn on sync. And this just records my keyframes, essentially for everything I change. Ooh. Okay. So this is a little different. Okay. So I have it. This is an older version of Blender, so they changed some things around. So here's the first image. I think it's 1.3 to make it full screen. And then I keyframe it. And then what I like to do is just do the zoom in. I don't really like zooming out. I used to like doing zooming out. And see, that kind of makes the motion. I go right up to the end of that clip. And then, so that's pretty much it. It's one. Whoa. It's two keyframes, the start and the end keyframe. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the night. Fun times. It was, I had a busy day, like really busy. Today, well, technically yesterday, I started off early. I woke up at 7, and then I had school at 9. And usually I get like really worried. I'm like, oh, I have to fall asleep, at a certain time, or else I won't get enough time, to sleep, and then I'll be like really tired throughout the day. But that didn't happen so much. I went to bed at 9:10, and then I didn't fall asleep till it was like 11:40. That's pretty much what's been happening. For some reason, ever since the first of the month, things have been a little different. It takes longer for me to fall asleep. Like, usually I try to finish everything I'm doing at 10, and then I try to get to bed by 11, and then I usually fall asleep around 1. But now it's like I finish everything around 10, I get to bed at like 10:30, and then I don't fall asleep till like 2:30 in the morning, or 3. And falling asleep at 3, Oh my goodness, you guys, I did the wrong thing. I'm fatigued. Okay. And so, like, kind of anything after 3 is really my cutoff. Because, like, if I'm awake at 3 or like 3:30, then I usually can't, like, I don't get any good sleep. It's almost like it's not even worth it to try to go back to sleep once it's 3, because I never get into a deep sleep. So it still took me forever to get to sleep, but I at least had like a comfortable night. I remember I had some good dreams, but I don't remember what they were exactly. I usually remember pretty well, but not right now. And so then I woke up, I pushed the snooze a bunch of times, and like I set my clock so I can push the snooze twice, but I pushed it 3 times, and yeah, it was funny because I woke up like way too early. I woke up around, it was like, again, I woke up at 4 or 5 in the morning. So then I was like, oh, I have to go back to sleep. But after I went back to sleep and I woke up at the right time, I was just like super tired. I think it was in between one of the REM cycles. And yeah, so I got up a little bit later than usual. I made my coffee and ate cereal. And for this class, like I can't skip breakfast. But I've noticed I have a problem every day I have the class, because usually what I do is I'll eat breakfast. No, I'll make my coffee, and then I'll eat breakfast like 30 minutes later. And that one, it's because like coffee kind of clears you out, but it's not good to eat food when you eat coffee, because coffee has a lot of iron in it, and so iron will actually prevent you from getting nutrients from your food. So you're essentially eating for no reason. But because I'm short on time, I drink the coffee while I'm eating breakfast. And at first, the first couple of classes, when I do this, I had like a protein shake. That was a mistake, because then I got like severe abdominal pains and everything. And so then I switched back to real food. So then I eat like oatmeal or cereal. And then it worked out better, but I still get a little bit of pain. And then in terms of like cramping and everything. But today it was pretty bad. I was sitting in class and I was like, I gotta get out of here. But the class went alright. It's a long class. It's from 9 in the morning to 1 p.m. And so everyone gets like hungry and everything during class, and towards the end, people are getting grumpy because they want to go home. But I mean, it was a little bit challenging. I'm a pretty good programmer, and so like this class has been like super easy, and like so the teacher will talk for like the first half hour or so of class, and that's the lecture, and then the next hour and a half we have to write a program on our own, and then we have to email it to the professor, and then he goes over everyone's program. So it's like a public shaming. They show all your source code and everything you did, and the teacher reads aloud, which I'm really impressed with, because I mean the teacher just figures out everything you're doing essentially as he's reading it, which isn't easy, because with programming, I mean, there's no one way to do it. You can do it in 1 billion lines of code, or you can do it in 5 lines of code, and there's no right or wrong answer, unless like the program doesn't work or do what it's supposed to. But you really have a lot of choice on how you want to tackle something. So if you have like 5 programmers working on the same program with the same rules and stuff, you can. There's no reason that the code would look the same. But so that part's impressive. But for this class, when we did our programming, I'm sorry, there's this cable and it keeps getting in the way. Okay. And so for this one class, he showed us, these are the things we're learning, had the half-hour lecture. And then we went to do the programming project, and I was just like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was tired but I wrote what the assignment was, and I was like, I wasn't even sure really what they were asking. And so like part of the question was like, okay, look at example, whatever in the book, and then, using, not the code, but using what that program's trying to do, create a program that does this similar to the way it does that. So it was really like, the project didn't really explain well what they wanted, and so I kind of did like a brute force technique for programming, where it said it wanted the code from that project, so I was like, well, I'm not really sure how I'm going to write my program. So I just wrote the code out that the book had, and then I spent the rest of the class period trying to get it to do exactly what the programming project was supposed to have. And it went okay, but I ran into a problem. It's funny because like usually for these programming projects, I'm like, I know exactly how I'm going to do it. I sit down and it's just, I'm writing code as fast as I can type, and it's just one line after the other, and I can like see the whole thing, and I know how it's going to turn out. But for this one, I just didn't have that kind of vision for the program. And I don't know, ever since I came back from spring break, I've been a little bit slower programming. But so that's what happened today. That was just slower writing code. And I don't know, it was funny because the teacher, one of the students was like, "Oh, we only have 3 more class periods," and the teacher was like, "Yeah, I can't wait to get rid of you guys." He says, "I'll never have to see you guys again," which is like true for most of us because this is the advanced class, and you pretty much can't take it until you're like done with your degree. And but then I got the wrong schedule, and so I thought class ended on the around the 30th or the 28th of April, but it turned out that's not the case. It goes to like May 5th. So that meant I had a whole extra class, and so I was bummed out. I was like, oh darn, because I'm ready for this to be done. And this is the class. I mean, it's challenging, but this is the hardest class in the degree. Everything else is really downhill after this. So I'm really happy for it to be done with. But what's kind of nice and reassuring is that, I mean, this class just makes so much sense. And it really built up my confidence with programming in C++. C was my first programming language, and I taught myself in high school. And then actually the second programming language I learned was Python. I mean, in high school they taught some programming languages. It was mandatory. They taught HTML and some JavaScript, but I taught myself C before that, so it was like, wow, HTML, that's easy. And then, but in college I had to go and take an introduction to programming, which was learning Python. Oh, I guess Python was so much fun. It was just, I mean, especially coming from C++. C is a low-level language, and like you can control memory allocation, and you got pointers and structures and all this stuff, which you can find a way to do in Python, but you really don't have to know any of that. And it's a scripting language, and so what's nice is you can program on Python on Linux, and it will work on Mac, and it will work on Windows. It's more universal, and I was like, yeah, I guess it's just feels like it's faster to prototype programs, and a lot of times what I'll do, Well, back in the day, what I would do is, like, if I was thinking about a program to write in C++, I'd write it in Python first to just kind of see how I'd set it up, and then I'd go and write it in C later. But then it got to a point where it was just like, I found a way to make compiled Python scripts, so they don't need the Python interpreter or anything. And they're just like Python executables, standalone. And then that's when I kind of stopped programming in C. And then I found a way to add a user interface, and it's called WX widgets. And it's like a plugin. It's a library you can install, and then once it's installed, you can program with it, and it just creates user interfaces instead of using the command line. And what's nice about WX is like you can write the code on Mac, or you can write it on Linux, or you could write it on Windows. It's all the same code. And so when you take the Python script from each one of those computers, as long as the computer you're running it on has the WX library installed, it will run the user interface, the GUI, the GUI, and it will actually look like it's a native app for that system. So it would use like the Windows user interface when you're running it on Windows. It would use the Linux user interface when you're running on Linux. And it would look like a Mac app if you were running it on the Mac. So that part was, nice figuring out. And then if like you don't want to like install the library, the WX library on all the computers, you can still compile the Python script and turn it into an executable, and then you don't need any libraries. It will just run as though it was its own standalone application. And so that's kind of where I got interested in doing that for Python. And so anyway, going back to the programming project in class, it was kind of one where it was like, I'm not really sure what they want me to do. And so I just kind of spent my time slowly assembling code while I tried to figure out what it was they were asking. And I figured it out towards the end. And so I started, adding more and doing what the project required. And so there was a lot of stupid work. It was like they gave you the source code, and they essentially wanted you to convert it into doing the same thing that it already did, but you had to use a specific way to program it. So it was like, so like the source code I had to use, it was all written in the main function, and then I had to create a class and then separate out the functions that were in main. First I have to create them as functions, then separate everything out. And then it was really about, we were learning about pointers, arrays, and data types, and then dynamic arrays. And so that part wasn't fun. I found like there was this one bug in my code, and it took me like 10 minutes to figure it out, where I was just trying thing after thing. And then, of course, that's when the teacher, decides to come and see how you're doing. But yeah, it's like busted. But the teacher, he sent me a link to see what the problem was, and then I was able to figure it out from that kind of. And so then, we're given an hour and a half to write these programs. The teacher goes around and he's like, all you guys are struggling. I'm going to show you how I did it. And so we didn't get to turn in our assignment and go through that judging period. And so then the part that was kind of like a bummer was that, like, I just got everything working. Like, the second he announced he was going to show us the answer to the problem, I was like, no, can I still submit it? I mean, it was fine because nobody else submitted their programs, but it was like, I'm the only one that figured it out. But it was complicated, his solution. I was like, it didn't need to be that complicated. Gotta remember to save. And so, yeah, and then we worked on our group project, which we got a lot done this time. So that was good. I mean, we were in like second place for our group in terms of the things that we had to do for our project and figure out. And so, I mean, we're not in first place yet, but we're a lot closer. Like, we have everything. We're learning on our own how to do a user interface with C++ for Windows using Visual C, and then this is the wrong way. I want it to go this way. Okay. And then after class, I came home, and then I had like stuff to do. I had errands. I had to clean out the car, and then that was a production. And then we had to this it was a shady experience, but my mom and I had to go in to pay this bill, and my mom called over the phone and was like, okay, this is how much, we owe you. And the person was like, yeah, this is how much you owe. And so then we walked into the place, and they're like, oh, you don't owe that amount, you owe this amount. And of course, the amount they want you to pay is like higher. But then this is like a monthly service we get, and they were like, no. Turns out the price we've been charging you for the past year was the wrong amount. And it was just like, what? And so they were like blaming us for them charging us the wrong amount. And so then for this month, they want to charge us like literally double the price. And there's like, oh, this is the market value and it's a fair deal. And we just like, so we decided to switch to like a weekly deal, weekly payment, because we're like canceling the service. And so us switching to the week billing cycle, it costs us what we used to pay per month is the amount we have to pay for a week of usage. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And so my mom and I were at the place, and like my mom was arguing forever, like, this wasn't the deal. And so we were talking to the manager the other day, and so he straight up lied and said all these things about the price and what it was before we got there. And then the second we got there, he's like, oh, here's the new contract. He's like, it was really shady. And then the whole time he's accusing us of like, oh, it's not fair that you've been paying this amount. And it was like, hello? The managers before this person, that was the amount that they said we owed, and so we just paid it. So that was like a really crummy experience. And so it usually takes 5 minutes, and we just go and sign papers and then pay. It took over 2 hours. And so that was like, oh, dreadful. So that's kind of why I'm late streaming. That one thing was supposed to take 5 minutes, and then we were going to the doctor's office to pick up medicine for my grandmother. And anyway, we were going to pick up the medicine for my grandmother, and we called the doctor's office, and we were like, can you leave it outside if we don't make it before you close? And so of course we didn't make it before they closed, because we were at the other place for an extra 2 hours. And yeah, so we go to the doctor's office and we get out of the car. They're closed, and usually they'll put like the medicine on in a bag and say, like who's it's for, and then we can just come and pick it up. Like we've done this before several times. And nope, nothing. So we're like, So then we checked the voicemail, and they didn't call us or anything. So my mom and I thought, no, I just forgot. And so the doctor's office and the place where we have to go sign the papers for the other billing, it's an hour away from our house. So it's not a easy trip. And so then it was like, that was dreadful. But the good thing that happened was we went to Del Taco. Because it's kind of in the middle of everything, of all the stuff we were supposed to be doing. I mean, the day was like a big failure, but Del Taco was good. And they don't have a lot of Del Tacos in Michigan. And the one we went to was an hour and a half away from our house. There's like 3 of them in all of Michigan. It's not like in California where there's like a ton of them at every block. And that's one of the bigger things that I miss about California is Del Taco. Personally, I like it more than Taco Bell. Okay, I'm going to animate this one, and then I'm going to take off for a second. But I'll let it play the animations while I'm gone. Okay, I'm going to let it play for a little while, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had to go put the dogs to sleep. To bed. Not to sleep, that's bad. Poor choice of words. Okay. So we're going to continue animating. As you can see, we're about a third of the way done. Which is pretty good. It's been 46 minutes. I think this is the only thing we're going to stream tonight is the animating. Probably do the color grade tomorrow. Either in the late morning or early afternoon. I'm trying to think what else happened today. I was telling you guys we went to Del Taco. That was pretty much the best thing about today. I'm allergic to a lot of things, but I get their bowl, I get their, what's it called? It's like veggie avocado bowl. It's okay. There's something, though, that I don't like about it. And the only reason why I got that is because what I really like is their queso fries. That's what I go there for now. And I just tried that on a whim like 2 weeks ago. But I really like their french fries, and I used to like their burritos, but I developed an allergy. Not to burritos, but to wheat, so I can't eat tortillas or anything like that. And so I get the veggie avocado bowl. And like, it's okay. I'm experimenting with it still. There's something about the rice that I don't like. It almost tastes kind of like couscous. It has the texture of couscous, which isn't a rice. It's like I think it's some kind of, like, technically like pasta. And I don't know, it's always really dry. And like sometimes hot sauce helps, but other times it doesn't. And so like I tried avoiding the onions. I asked for no onions, and that seems to be the way to go. But this time when I went, they put lettuce on it, which is like weird because they never do that. And yeah, but I was essentially only eating the avocado bowl because I wanted, I didn't want to fill up on just cheese fries. I wanted to like stay fuller and have like more complete proteins and a semi-healthier fast food meal. Okay, here we go. But that was kind of like the fun for the day was Del Taco. And then after that, because the errands took so long to do, I we went and picked up our groceries and then came home. We didn't get home till like 11, and then put everything away and fed the dogs. And then yeah, that was the day. It was a long one. I mean, it started at 7 and went till like I mean, it's gone till now. It's almost 1 in the morning. So today is really like, it's kind of like Friday night for me, even though it's Wednesday. After Wednesday, it's usually like all downhill. I try to complete all my homework. Monday and Tuesday. I really wanted to get all the homework done on Monday, but it didn't work out that way. But I wanted to do my homework Tuesday, and it was a huge headache. The second class, not because it was hard. It's extremely easy. It was just we had to make directories and make files in the command line. And so but that was the easy part. The part that took forever, even though it was easy, was that I had to like take a screenshot after every step in the command prompt and then put it in a Word file. And just like, so then we had like 4 projects we had to do. And each one had like 13 steps. And then you had to take screenshots for them all. I'm always worried taking the screenshots. I'm like, is the teacher gonna like know? I'm gonna accidentally like post something in my homework, and then the teacher's gonna be like able to like identify my computer on the internet. That worries me. And it is a computer networking class, so a lot of stuff, especially in the beginning of class, a lot of the stuff we had to do was a lot of this. I'm sorry, I was thinking of something else. A lot of the stuff we had to do is like we had to show tracing IP routes and things like that. And it's an online class, so it's like this person knows my IP address because I had to take screenshots of it and my gateways and everything. And it's like, not so happy about that. Yeah, so that homework took forever. And I mean, like, it took hours just getting all the screenshots right and everything. And then we were working with a virtual machine, and like I deal with a lot of virtual machines. I mainly use VirtualBox, but I have used VMware, and so this time I was using something. It's a VM player. I forgot who it's from. I think it's from VMware, but that is a stupid program. It's okay because it's free and it's supposed to be so you can like learn how to use a virtual environment. And what a virtual environment is it's like you're running a computer. Like let's say you're running Windows, but you want to run Linux from within it. And so you make a virtual machine and you install Linux on that virtual machine. And so Linux thinks it's running on its own computer and everything, but it's really running in an application inside of Windows. And it can go the other way too. You can run you can be running Linux, and then you can have a virtual machine of like Windows 10 or Windows XP or even like Windows Server. You could have running in a virtual machine, or you could have be running Windows Server and then be running 30 clients, which would just be running. It's like if you pretend to have 30 computers, but it's all really running off one computer. That's kind of what you can do with a virtual machine. But the VM player was having hissy fits because for some reason I was having problems with my motherboard, and so I went and I was having this problem where when I transitioned from booting into Linux and booting into Windows, there was always this weird bug where Windows wouldn't be able to load, and then it would start doing a restore point and trying to restore. And anyway, so I turned off the virtualization for AMD, which I think is called AMD V or something like that. And so the VM player, it couldn't handle that. It was you have disabled hardware acceleration for virtual machines. I can't start. And it was and then it was giving you instructions. It's you have to go into your BIOS settings and turn it back on and blah, blah, blah. And it's just why? I mean, that might sound weird, but VirtualBox and stuff, I mean, it's nice if you have the hardware acceleration, but it's not needed. You can still run a virtual machine without it. I mean, it'll be slower, but still. The VM player only, it relies on that. So then I had to stop everything I was doing. I had to stop all the screenshots and close everything out. And let's see how far. We're about 2/3 now. Anyway, so I had to reboot, go into the BIOS, change the settings, and then I went back and it worked. And the joke of it was we weren't even installing a operating system. We just had to show that the virtual machine booted I couldn't find an operating system to install. So I was like, oh, but I finally got the screenshot. So for the next stream, I'm gonna be editing the color grade, and so that's just for the video. The photos, like this photo, the colors have been fixed, and I did the editing the curves and everything and the contrast. But like if you can see here, like this is straight video. There's no editing or and whatnot. There's been no color changes, so it's kind of, I mean, it's really flat, and yeah. So the next stream tomorrow, I'll be going through and making them look more like the photographs, and just tuning them up better. And earlier today, the other Sleeping Spring project finished rendering, so that was like, yay. It's been rendering, I don't know how long it's been rendering, since Sunday, and it finished Wednesday. Yeah, that sounds right. And the week has gone by like really fast, but it finished rendering. It's only the HD version, and it's photography and video from Kersley Park, also in Flint. We're really getting close to the end. These murals were like close to the end of the walk. I guess we're not that close. I might have to finish this up tomorrow. I think I will. I'll finish editing these murals, but and then I'll come back tomorrow. Oh, anyway, so it finished rendering, and the Kersley Park one had a lot of issues rendering because it was huge. It's an hour and a half, hour and 33 minutes, and what I do is when I render to a Huffy codec. I mean, that's literally what it's called. It's AUFF, and it's almost like a raw codec. It's very close to being uncompressed. And then after the animations, and it's everything. It's essentially the project I'm working on now. Once it's exported, and then the computer goes and compresses it into a format whatever format I want. I use FFmpeg, and so it's really the sky's the limit. And so from there, then I encode to like H.264, and but I have it rendered. I have it encode into like a higher bit rate. So for the HD version, it's the minimum bit rate is 25 megabits per second, and then the max is 35 megabits a second. And Blu-ray is 30, but I found that it's okay to go higher quality than Blu-ray, and you can really see it in HD video. Okay, but I'll do a couple more. And I mean, you can. What's really nice is like the video. This is the same camera I used for the video, and this is a video, but this is the photo. And what's really nice was seeing that how crisp and clear the video camera was. It shoots in 4K, and I was like, wow. I mean, like the amount of detail you could see. And it's a knockoff GoPro camera, so I was really happy with it. It's about half the price of the GoPro. So I was pleasantly surprised when I did the test renders, and I rendered everything it was like at 10% of resolution, but it was 10% of the resolution of 4K, so it was a little bit under 720p. I didn't know how the video was going to turn out, because some of it looked kind of muddy, and like the pixels looked like things that were dark were super dark. Excuse me. And then things that were bright were like overly bright. I was like, I'm not sure about the contrast, and I was really worried about the loss in detail. And again, the resolution was less than 720p, but a little higher than standard def. And so I was like, I'll render it at HD resolution. And so that's what it did first. And I did it that way mainly because, like I said, I record to the Huffy, which is close to an uncompressed format. So it's huge. It's like around 700 gigs for 700 to 800 gigabytes for a hour and a half video at HD. And the reason why I did that way is because the 4K version is going to take a long time to render, but I gave the HD version that's up on Patreon right now. And then once the 4K is done, and it's going to be done in like a week and a half. So not this Friday, but the next Friday it should be completed. But what I had to do was actually split the project into chunks, and then I'm rendering it that way. So I split the hour and a half project into 4 chunks, and then it's going to render, chunk 1, and it does that into it does that again into the Huffy codec. So because it's 4K, I mean, that's going to be huge, even though it's only a third. And that should be around 500 gigabytes for each chunk. But then what it's going to do is it's going to record, it's going to render into the uncompressed, and then it's going to compress it, and then it's going to go on to the next part. And like the compressed version will be around like 10 gigabytes. And then it will go to the next part and render that. And then after all the renders and compression is complete, then I will combine them into one large file. And yeah, that's how I'm going to get the 4K one with limited hard drive space. Like if I had 2 terabytes free, I could just render it all as one, but I don't. So that's kind of the reason why I have to do it in chunks. Okay, well I'm gonna stop it here. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Streaming for Flotations, and this has been the Sleeping Spring project, and this has been Downtown Flint, the photography and videos, where I've been taking them from. And thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow, probably late afternoon or late morning or early afternoon. And then I'll finish animating, and then I'll be doing the color grades. Okay, bye-bye.